Okay, shalom everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the special event in honor of Chaf Kislev, Yud Tes Kislev, which is these 2 days. And today, this year specifically, we're going to speak about our mission in the world, because one of the interesting chidushim, innovations that Chassidus introduced to the world is our mission. That we have a certain mission, the meaning behind our mission, and today we're going to try and see 2 things. First of all, how can we find our mission? And second of all, how does that help us? In what fields finding our mission might help us? How does that change the whole way of looking at things? So, it's a good joke that I heard not long ago about a great makubal that came to the United States. And he was offering blessings, he was offering brachas. And there was one couple that did not have children for many years. And they basically turned to this makubal, to this rabbi, and they asked him for a blessing to have children. And the rabbi said, for sure, I'm going back to Eretz Yisrael. Please write a note with your names. And I will put it in the Kotel HaMaravi, in the western wall, and that will give you a blessing, a bracha. So years go by, 5 years go by, and this makubal goes again for another trip to the United States, and he sees that same couple, and he sees the wife. He tells the wife, how are you doing? So she says, Baruch Hashem, you won't believe it, we've got 10 children. And the makubal says, well, tell me what exactly happened? You won't believe it, but the first year after this bracha, we had triplets. The second year, we had twins. The third year, we took a break. Fourth year, triplets again. And the fifth year, twins. So the makubal says, wow, amazing. And where is your husband? So she says, my husband went to Eretz Yisrael. What is he looking for in Eretz Yisrael? He went to Yerushalayim, to the western wall. He's looking for that note. So, we learned a few parshias ago about Yaakov Avinu. He basically escaped from Lavan, returning to Eretz Yisrael, returning to the land of his fathers, and now he's bringing a whole group with him. He's got Kanai Nahora, he's got the 12 tribes, he's got of course his daughter Dinah, he's got also, according to certain midrashim, there were twins that were that were born with each one of the Shvatim. So not only that, but he's got a lot of wealth that he's carrying with him. And he's got there even just the gifts that he gave Esav. Took it 3 days to send all of those gifts to his brother Esav. So imagine his own personal wealth. He went with a convoy. It's like if you've ever seen, whenever the President of the United States travels. So first of all, weeks before already, there's a whole. They send over a few aeroplanes with vehicles, with everything. They basically are importing. It's not a mini city, but it's a significant quantity of vehicles and other things that the president would need. So, pretty similar. Yaakov Avinu, when he returned to the house of Lavan, to the house of his father Yitzchak, he carried with him. And the Torah tells us, yes.
Returning? He didn't return to his father.
Sorry?
Did he return to his father Yitzchak?
So he did. It wasn't to his father, it was to his father's land, to Eretz Yisrael. but not to his father. You're right. Thank you for pointing that out.
Sorry.
And yeah, sure. It's interesting. There's certain midrashim about what exactly happened with Yitzchak after that, because apparently Yitzchak was still alive. Yitzchak, by the way, knew that Yosef. One of the midrashim says that Yitzchak knew that Yosef was still alive in Egypt, which is years later. So what happened is that Yaakov Avinu is traveling and he's crossing the Jordan River. When he crosses the Jordan River, he realizes that he forgot something on the other side. After he made sure that all the children went and all of his wealth and property, whatever he had, all of his assets were in Eretz Yisrael, he remembered that he forgot Pachim Ktanim. What is Pachim Ktanim? Small jars. Nes Pach Hashem, the miracle of the jar of oil. So he forgot a few of those jars on the side of the river, and he returns. And he returns to take those small Pachim Ktanim to bring it with him. And the question is why? If you forget a few Pachim Ktanim, few jars or boxes, whatever it is, why are you schlepping all the way back to get it? It's not like it's just to reach over to the other side of the Jordan. Even today the Jordan is quite wide, and imagine then the Jordan was very wide. So the Jordan River. So why did he schlep all the way back to bring back those small jars? And you might have thought that, what's the end of the world? So he took a few more minutes of his time and he did it. But there was something that occurred, that happened while he was there. What does the Torah tell us? That when he returned to the other side of the Jordan River, he met an angel. He met the angel of Esau. And they had a whole fight. And this fight was a moving moment for Yaakov. It was a moving moment for all of Am Yisrael. Until this very day, we aren't allowed to eat a certain part of the animal that is called Gid Hanoshe. Gid Hanoshe is something that we cannot eat, and there are certain opinions that we shouldn't touch any type of Gidim, because we don't know what exactly was that specific Gid Hanoshe. And that was a result because Yaakov Avinu was hit by the angel, by Esau's angel, on Al Yerech Yaakov, Yaakov's thigh, and therefore we don't eat Gid Hanoshe at all. Not only that, but there was another part to the story, is that Yaakov Avinu's name changed. Yaakov Avinu was known as Yaakov, and now he became Yisrael. Exactly. What is Yisrael? So the Malach explains, Ki sarita im Elokim ve'im anashim v'tuchal, which means you were able to cope with men and with angels, which is something that's very significant, and that brings you to a higher level. Yisrael, the letters Li Rosh. If we use this word Yisrael, so it's Li Rosh, which means I am connected to the head. I am the head. So this is Yaakov, which is Yud Akev, which is the heel, going from the heel all the way to the head. That's quite a journey, and that's because he was able to deal with Lavan and with this angel of Esau. So this story of Yaakov crossing to the other side of the Jordan River and returning those small jars was a significant story, and we've got to understand why did he do it. So it's interesting. There is a Gemara that says that Rebbe Mechabed Ashirim. Rebbe used to respect rich people. And by the way, Rebbe himself was very, very rich. There's actually an interesting Gemara that the Gemara says once there was the emperor of Rome was in good relationship with Rebbe, and he wanted to
not this Rebbe.
Not this Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda Anasi.
Yeah.
Thank you for, we're talking about 2,000 years ago. So Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, then the leader of the Jewish people, basically received from the emperor a precious jewel, and he sent in return to the emperor. He sent him a mezuzah, and the emperor got upset. He said, "I send you a precious jewel that's worth millions, and you send me this piece of what's it called? Cloth." Parchment, exactly. You send me parchment with something that I can't even understand. It's not like a recipe that I can use. So Rebbe told him, listen, Rebbe said that when you give me this jewel, I have to protect it. I've got to make sure that it's in a good place, because otherwise people will come and take it, right? But when you have this parchment, cloth, this mezuzah that you are holding, that I gave you, you should know that not only that it protects itself, but it protects you and all of your belongings. It's an interesting medrash, and we can go into a whole discussion. What is a mezuzah worth for a Gentile? Can Gentiles also use mezuzahs? Very interesting, and it shows us also the quality of the mezuzah itself and the importance that Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi had to it. But let's go back to the story that Rebbe himself was very rich. He got also those jewels, but he had much more money. And he used to respect rich people. Why? Why did he respect rich people? Was there something about a person being rich that he wanted to be close to him because he needed strong connections? Is that the story? Chas v'shalom, Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi is a holy person. He wasn't just, he's got to be close to the plate, so therefore let's establish good, strong connections with rich people. So why does the Gemara point out that Rebbe used to respect rich people? There's something in it when we speak about owning possessions and being able to respect those that own possessions. And we'll speak about the meaning of this Rebbe Mechaber Ashir. Chapter 26 and 27 in Tanya are very significant. Chapter 36 and 37, 36 and 37. Chapter 36 says, there is a medrash, which is an uncommon medrash. We don't all know about it. We don't learn it first thing as part of the foundations of our life until the times of Chassidus. The Alter Rebbe brought this medrash and introduced it to our lives, and that made a whole difference and a change in our way of serving Hashem. And the Alter Rebbe says like this. We know the Maimar Azal, this is a medrash from our scholars, and the medrash tells us that the purpose, Tachlis Brias Olam Hazehu, the purpose, why did Hashem create this world down below? Hu Shinis Avo HaKadosh Baruch Hu Liyos Le'idira B'Sachtoinim. Hashem has a desire. He's got this will, this desire that he wants to have a house, a home. Not only a house, there's a difference between a house and a home, right? A house doesn't have to be warm and light and lebedik. A home, what makes a home into a home? It's not only the four walls and the ceiling, but it's the environment, it's the warmth, etc. So Hashem wants here in this world, not only this world, but in this dark world, where we see many things around us that do not fit with what Hashem exactly wants, but Hashem wants us here to create for Him a home. Here, right in this place, and this is what the Alter Rebbe teaches us. Why is this so significant? Why is this so important? Because it explains to us what exactly we are doing. And generations before that, to be honest, I cannot understand. If I would be in their generation, I would be very frustrated. I think their souls were on a higher level. That's why they could cooperate without this guidance. But you know, it's like when you get instructions to build something or to put together something. You get something from IKEA, right? So you've got to do it yourself, basically. And you get the instructions. If it's something simple, so you're prepared to do it. And you get the instructions. And sometimes without the instructions, we feel very lost. If you don't have the instructions, you'll see when you walk outside. I don't know if you noticed on the way in, we got a new Chanukiah, a new menorah for the entrance to the Bet Chabad, right across the office. And that is something new. We just got it, and we needed to put it together. So that was relatively simple. We did it without instructions. It wasn't that complicated. But in certain cases, you need the instructions in front of you. And this is basically the instructions to our day-to-day life. This is the instructions. This explains to us, why does Hashem want us to put on tefillin every day? What is the purpose behind lighting candles every Shabbos night? Erev Shabbos, before Shkia. Why do we do that? Why are we going to light menorah candles Sunday night? What is the purpose behind it? What is the purpose of studying Torah? What is the purpose of us getting together? It's great to be here and to see everyone and to celebrate Yud Tes Kislev. But what stands behind the holy words of the Torah that we are learning? And this is what the Alter Rebbe tells us. That you get instructions to build a home for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not only instructions, but this is also the material. This is the way we build a home for Hashem. When we do one mitzvah, we do another mitzvah and another mitzvah. It's adding another brick, and another brick to the home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That makes things very clear. And it also explains to us what is the Torah exactly. The Torah is connected to the idea of making this into a home. Not the house. The mitzvahs are more a house, which is the technical side. The Torah is more making it into a home, which is a place that is warm, that has light, that there's a Hamisha feel in that place, right? So now when things are understood, when things are clear, we know exactly what we are doing. We know why we do it. We don't have to go too much into details, but there is a purpose behind every mitzvah. And now we can also understand the significance that we have and the responsibility that we have when we do this mitzvah. Right? Hashem is instructing us and telling us, I rely on you to build for me a home. That is the purpose. And it's up to us, it's in our hands. So slowly but surely we are starting to speak about the mission. We aren't just thrown here into this world, but we are on a mission. There is a purpose behind us being here, behind each and everything that we do. And that is creating for Hashem a home here in Olam Hazeh.
So why did Yaakov need to go back to?
Yes.
Did you say that? Or,
Yes, that's connected exactly to that idea. 100%. You have a question?
Yeah, I mean, how does that relate to particularly coming to Eretz Yisrael?
Coming to Eretz Yisrael, Yaakov Avinu, or just us, or just in general?
Us and now, this time.
So it's a great question. As we get closer and closer to the times of Mashiach, most of the home is already prepared. Most of them, imagine we are, and this is one of the questions, how can we be the ones to greet Mashiach? How are we the ones that are worthy to accept the face of Mashiach? Shouldn't it be the higher generations? Shouldn't, maybe the Alter Rebbe should be, or the Maharal Miprag, or Rashi, or the Maimonides? They are greater than us. Shouldn't they be the ones to accept Mashiach? we are here to do what's called בעברית אומרים at the finishing, right? We want to just do the last parts to make this into a decorated place, and that's why we are slowly but surely preparing to Mashiach coming. That's why we have the ability, Baruch Hashem, to be in Eretz Yisrael. So as we see generations after generations, we're getting to an end point, to a point where we are already prepared for the coming of Mashiach. And the Rebbe said it quite a few times, that we are ready for Mashiach. All we need to do is receive him. But the world is ready. And back to the whole idea of our mission, what is the most difficult mitzvah in the Torah to keep? I like Shabbos, I like Hanukkah. Great mitzvahs.
Your father and your mother.
It's probably
Okay, right, so that's always a challenging thing. And that reminds me of a, sorry? Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, right. Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha is basically very challenging because first of all it has to do with our hearts, it has to do with emotions, with feelings, and Baruch Hashem we've got each Yid and his own opinion, right? The story about the Jew that was left on the island, and many years later they came to that island and they saw that he built 3 nice shuls. They told him, why do you need 3 nice shuls? So he said, one is the shul where I go and daven. The other, that is the friends of mine, they go daven there. And the third shul, why do you need that? That's a shul that I'll never step my foot in. So, Baruch Hashem, it is a challenge, Nachon. Yes, Gabriel. The part of Simcha. Yafeh. That's also a challenge, to be connected to it. We'll speak a bit about Simcha as well today. I want to try and give you a hint. It's in the 10 commandments. Aseret HaDibrot, there is one mitzvah that is very, very difficult. You're all right. These mitzvahs that you said are challenging. They are challenging. But there is one particular mitzvah that is significantly hard. It's in the 10 commandments.
Maybe the last one, number 10.
What is the last one?
Not to covet, how you call that in English?
Yafeh me'od. Lo tachmod. Not to, what is the word in English? Covenant? Covet. Not to covet. And the Torah says it very much in detail. Lo tachmod, which is you don't want the house of your fellow. Lo tachmod beis re'echa sadehu, his field, which means his parnasa, his wife, eishes re'echa, v'chol asher le're'echa. You should not, what's the word again?
Covet.
Covet. At the end of the shir, hopefully I'll get it. Lo tachmod, you shall not covet anything that your fellow has. That is very, very hard. That is very, very hard because many times, you know, you see something and you say, well, why can't I drive the same Porsche that he drives? Why don't I have the house that he has, or anything else? Or it could be, you know, oh wow, this person, he has such a great family. I want to be, I wish I'd had that family. And these are, first of all, emotions that's very hard to control. And this seems like one of the hardest mitzvot, at least one of the hardest. Maybe there are others that are also hard, but it's one of the hardest. So how can we stay away from what does not belong to us? And not only stay away technically like the other commandments that we have, which is not to steal, for example. Yes, don't do so, but here it's about the emotions, about your feelings. Yes, you want to have the same occupation that your neighbor has. So how are we actually able to stay in control and discipline our emotions and make sure that we don't covet what belongs to others.
Jealousy is kind of connected to it, right? Jealousy.
Right. Jealousy is, I would say, it's very similar. It's maybe the next step. It's when the person allows that emotion to actually take control, and now he's thinking all the time he's jealous. By the way, the issur of jealousy, there is no specific issur for that. I think that it is included in lo tachmod. Jealousy is basically the idea of lo tachmod. So it could be the feeling of the person, it could be just the thought that pops into his mind. We're all human beings, there's the thought in our mind, what can I do? You know, so how can we cope with it? So we spoke about the general mission that we are sent for over here. And this general mission is an interesting mission. The general mission is that we've got to create for HaKadosh Baruch Hu a home here in this world, in this dark world. But there's a second part to this mission as well. And that is that each one has his own specific assignment. Within that great mission of creating a home, we can't be expected to do everything. Hashem does not want us to do everything. We might not even be able to do everything. So therefore each one has what's called chelkoi ba'olam, which means those sparks of holiness that are hidden here in the world, and they are covered. Because let's say a person, he owns a tree of etrogim, right, of the esrog, but he does not use it for the mitzvah, so that there's a spark of holiness there, but it's sealed, and his mission is to reveal it, and each one has his part specifically in the world. And that is why for that reason, each and every one of us are also different. Generally speaking, this is one of the things that the Rebbe spoke about many times, is the difference between the mission that men are given and the mission that women are given. And this is not something that occasionally, sometimes we see, well, we might think, why men don't get the mitzvah of lighting candles Shabbos night. The mitzvah is first of all for the woman in the house, and vice versa. Sometimes in certain cases there are those that ask, well, why don't the ladies get the exact same mitzvahs as the men get? The Rebbe always gave an example of the Rebbe spoke about in the military. The Rebbe said that in many cases, right, you've got the commander of the submarines and you've got the commander of the Air Force or the helicopters. And if each one would want to do something else, then the army wouldn't function properly. So the importance isn't about the amount of mitzvahs, it's about the mission. Which means, in many cases, it says that a neshama can come down to this world for 70 or 80 years just to do a favor to another. 70 or 80 years the neshama is here, but nevertheless it's waiting for one specific mission, one specific moment, that is his chelek, chelkoi ba'olam. And once he does it, it could be one small thing. Once he does it, he completes his soul. He completes his neshama. By the way, we aren't here just once. We probably, all of us in this room, were here, we visited here in the past as well. Only the Alter Rebbe, by the way, it says that the Alter Rebbe is called a Neshama Chadasha. He is a new soul. But we are all old souls, as they say. Why? Because we were on a mission. And this mission is our specific neshama that has to complete it, and sometimes 70, 80 years aren't enough, and 120 years aren't enough. And there's another part that we've got to do, another mitzvah that we've got to do in order to fulfill our mission and in order to complete it. So from now onwards, we've got to remember that it's not about the quantity, it's not about the amount of mitzvahs that we do, it's not about what type of mitzvahs we do, it's about fulfilling our mission. This can give us a lot of encouragement in certain cases when we see our fellow chavrusa or friend is a great tzaddik. What a special tzaddik he is. I'm never going to be on his level. Am I going to get a reward for what I do? Look at him, he can study all day. He davens all day. The davening goes so smoothly for him. And in many cases, this might cause us to think that we aren't doing something right. And then we say, but wait a second, I don't really have the ability to daven all day like he does or learn all day like he does. So am I to be blamed for that? So that is a conflict that we might feel inside us. Are we doing something wrong or right? Should I be this picture of a tzaddik that I imagine in my mind? Or maybe that's not what I should do. But I've always got this feeling of guilt. Why am I not this great tzaddik that I should be? Rabbi Zusha of Anipoli, and we spoke about this not long ago, Rabbi Zusha of Anipoli had a very interesting quote that he used to say. He said, when he will enter the world, the next world, they're going to ask him a question. And this is going to be not a simple question, a very hard and difficult question. He said they're not going to ask him, were you like the Maimonides? Or were you like Moshe Rabbeinu? They're going to ask me one question. Were you Zusha? That's the only question. Which means it's all about our mission. It's not about carrying out. Of course, we've got to do whatever Hashem says and try and learn as much as we can. Try and do as many mitzvot as we can. And I don't want you to leave the shir today saying, "Oh, they told me in shir today that it's not important the amount of the mitzvahs." Of course it is. But at the end of the day, it's your specific mission. There's a certain part in the world that is waiting for you. When exactly will you come and elevate that part of the world? And that's why we have different tools, we have different abilities, capabilities. And there's a certain field where I am good at, there's another field where I'm not good at, and I should try and focus on what I can do. So that is our own private individual mission. So let's go back to the three questions that we started off with, and then we'll speak about finding our mission. What exactly is our mission? So why did Rebbe respect rich people? Not because that he wanted to be close to karov latzalachat, close to the plate. It wasn't because that he needed strong connections with the big politicians and the big rich men in those times in Jerusalem. No. Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi was a holy man. When he was mechabed ashir, when he respected rich people, it was for one reason and for one purpose. Not because of them, but because of their mission, because of their responsibility, because of their assets. Which means it's not about the individual, it's about, wow, this person owns a significant amount of property, so it means that he's got a big mission in the world to elevate that property, and that's why Hashem told him, you know what, I assign you to this important mission. So it means that he's got strong abilities, and that he's also got to prove himself. So when Rebbe was mechaber ashirim, when Rebbe respected rich people, it wasn't because of their wealth, technically. It was more because of the significant mission that they had. And now we can also understand why Yaakov Avinu went back for those small jars. He didn't just leave them there, because the possessions of a tzaddik, and not only of a tzaddik, of every person, are very important. It's this is why we are here, to use them for holiness, for kedusha, to try and elevate them. So I can't say, oh, I'm going to leave that out. I've got here a certain tool to serve Hashem with, and that, you know what, let's forget about that. That's just something small. No, Hashem wants you to take care of the small details as well, because that is part of our mission. Could be that Yaakov Avinu needed to use those jars for kedusha, and in that case he completes the soul. And otherwise, what happens is the neshama has to reincarnate years later in order for this soul to be complete. So on the one hand, Rebbe was mechaber ashirim. Rebbe respected rich people because they had a big mission. They needed to carry out a big mission. But on the other hand, not only big cases matter, it's about each and every small jar or small abilities. And even in our life, there's certain things where we are more talented and we devote that to Hashem. But even if we have small talents in other fields, right? We've got our main talent of learning, let's say. We like learning, and that's what we do. We learn a lot, right? But what about the davening? Should I just give up on the davening? Should I tell myself, you know what, there's no importance to my davening. I may as well open a Gemara and let's get on with the limud, with the learning. No. Even the small pachim ktanim, it's still very important to use for kedusha and holiness. Now we can also understand how exactly to fulfill the commandment, the 10th commandment, lo tachmod, not to covet. Am I correct? Covet? Mm-hmm. How exactly could we do it? When we think about our mission, and when we think about certain things that belong to us and others that do not belong to us, which means we are here for a certain purpose, so then things that are out of our interest, that aren't for us, they become irrelevant. It's like a person that would say, I covet the White House, but I know that I was not born in America, and that's why there's no chance of me getting into that place, into that position, right? So it's not even a challenge for me. Is it a challenge? Did anyone here once covet one of the presidents of the United States for being president? Right? Let's say even if it was a nice job. Would we really want to become president? I mean, maybe there's some kind of dream, but it's not. What the Torah tells us do not covet is something that leads to action as well, which means something realistic, that a person might say, you know what, I'm going to try and get him out of his job and make sure that I climb to that. Or I'll try and get him at least out of his job. And I'll become jealous, which is more the practical side of tachmod, of a person that covets. So when we know that there's our mission that we've got to focus on, everything else becomes irrelevant. I don't think about my neighbor that is a great Torah scholar when I know that I am very good in what I do in my profession, whatever it may be, and that is the way I serve Hashem. I've got my way of serving Hashem because that's what Hashem wants. We're not starting, it's not that we can do whatever we want. We've got the rules, the general rules that Hashem gave us, but nevertheless, we know clearly that there's a specific part that belongs to us. I would like to end with two ways of finding out what exactly is our mission. There was the way that was most common years ago, and that is the way that finding out your mission was to examine and find out what is most difficult for you to do. Why are we here? Why am I here? Why wasn't it enough the last time I visited planet Earth? Whatever's the hardest, whatever's most challenging, that means I did not fix it. That means my Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, is right there, and that's why he's trying to get me, he's trying to keep me off track where it is most difficult for me. If it's the whole concept of kashrut, where I find it very challenging waiting the right amount of hours, making sure to separate totally the milk and meat. If it's about the Shabbos, if it's about respecting parents, respecting friends, if it's about learning, if it's about whatever it is, the challenging part, that is our mission. The Rebbe said that was more relevant to previous generations. But today, we've got to focus on what we are good at. And our mission is not where we find it to be most difficult. Our mission is where we find it most easy, that we find it pleasurable. That is our mission. We've got to use our abilities, and we've got to find out what abilities we have that we are connected to. What do I like doing? I wake up in the morning, I like to learn. Great. So use that skill of learning and try and put an emphasis on that. Don't try to fight yourself and say, oh, I've got to go to the part that is most difficult for me and start working on that. In our generation, it's not going to work. It's not what Hashem expects of us. Hashem wants us to embrace the parts that are not only easiest. It's not about easy. It's about what I enjoy doing. If you take a look at the young generation today, they say that people find it very hard to stay at one job more than 5 years. I'm sure many people here that are sitting today had the same job for 10, 20, 30 years, and maybe even more, because the stability is the most important thing. It's not about what you want to do. It's not about what you enjoy doing at this moment. But this new generation is different in that way, that they've got to feel connected to what they are doing. They've got to enjoy what they are doing. And the same goes Baruchnius. Not only the same goes in spirituality, but from the holiness, that's why there was a Hishtalshalut, a gradual process also into the material world. But we start from the spiritual world. The holy world, the spiritual world, is that we've got to work on our mission. What is our mission? The thing that we are mostly connected to, that we enjoy, and that we can bring our qualities. So that is basically what we can see first of all in Tanya, the great Chiddush of the Alter Rebbe, the whole concept of having a mission. And now we know why we are here, the instructions that we have, and finding our own specific mission. Again, also with understanding how our mission can help us, first of all, to make sure that we take care of the details. We don't leave out those small jars exactly the same as Yaakov did not leave them out. And that we know that certain people are respected, each and every one. By the way, when Rebbe respected rich people, it's not that he did not respect others that weren't rich. Again, he respected the person according to his mission. A rich person had a bigger mission because he had more possessions to elevate. And then another person, we respect him the same because of his mission. It's about the quality, not the quantity. And the last thing is that we know how exactly to avoid jealousy and to follow the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10th command, that Hashem says not to covet. Thank you very much.